Good evening. For a change, I walked aboard the set here. My name is the Reverend Wallace Ryan. I'm here to deliver a bit of a eulogy for Steve Ditko. So once again, welcome to In the Library of Graphic Literature with your host tonight, the Reverend Wallace Ryan. A lot of people don't know that about me. So anyway, of course the comic book world was shocked to its very roots this week when we all heard the terrible news that the legendary Steve Ditko had passed on. It shook me to the core, I know that much. Outside of Jack Kirby, I would say Steve Ditko is easily probably either my second or third choice in terms of my all-time favorite artists. So I figured I have to do a special episode just for him, and here we are. So and I figured the best way I could do it was by going through the various Ditko books that I have here in the library. So with a sip of tea, let's do it for Steve. Okay, so we'll start with actually some of my bigger Ditko books. I have to start. If it seems like I'm sweating here, by the way, folks, it's because I am. It's because it's very warm up here. All that warmth that's been haunting North America has moved onto the island, so it's very warm here tonight. But I don't care. This has to be done. So, first on my favorite of the big Ditko books is the Creativity of Ditko from Craig Yo and Yo Books. This one I like just because, well, it's a huge. I love comics when they're printed a little bit bigger than usual. This one was cool. It's sort of a neat variety of some of his earlier stuff. Then there is The Art of Ditko, also by Craig Yo. This one has stories from strange suspense stories. A lot of the earlier ones, this magazine is haunted, I think is probably some of them. One of my favorite titles of all the things that he's been done. Oh, look at that. Look at that, pure Ditko. I can remember I'm not sure what attracted me to Ditko. There's sort of a simmering insanity. Oh, this magazine is haunted, coolest one. There's a tension and a simmering insanity that seems to just lurk just beneath the surface. I mean, all his characters seem imbued with this tension and there's something wrong going on, something evil going to happen, that type of thing. So, oh my god, actually, I forgot one of my favorite Ditko titles. Hang on a second, folks. It's right up here in the library. Oh, how could I forget these two? Okay. Sorry about that, folks. It's in the middle of this reverie that it came to me. So yeah, there's something like I say, really deep and primeval in his artwork that attracted me. I always liked the way he drew hands. To me, there's a few things of which you can tell Ditko a mile away, and one of them are those cool Ditko hands of his. Now, let's continue along our exploration of my Ditko collection here. Of course, next comes to, hang on a second. Some good tea here tonight. Comes along two monster books from Craig Yo, Gorgo and Kong. Gorgo, actually, this is based on a movie. Actually, you can find this movie online. It's kind of like a poor man's British Godzilla, I guess it's the easiest way to put it. But they're kind of neat sort of stories. Very Ditko-esque in their way. for you completists, you Ditko completists, you gotta get that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, Monsters Ditko Konga. And this is another one. I think this was, I'm not sure if this was from a movie or not, but this one also I love. It's basically your typical big ape type of stories. Pretty darn cool. And they just won't leave him alone, you know? It's kind of like that King Kong guy. Same thing with him. They would never leave him alone either. And where did that get them? The last, but definitely not least, from Craig Yo and Fester Faceplant is the Ditko Shorts. This is one of my favorites because it has this really cool embossed cover to it. The letters are all kind of shiny. This is what I like about Craig. He really goes over and above the Call of Duty when it comes to packaging these little beauties. So here's a few shots from. Yeah, he was something special, wasn't he, people? Every one of these a masterpiece. Okay, so now oh yeah, and actually there was the I'd forgotten. Hang on a second there, folks. Oh God. I'd also forgotten the Steve Ditko archives from a few years ago from Fantagraphics. A lot of these are from Strange Suspense, Out of This World. This magazine is haunted. Actually, here's a PS art book volume. Now this collects the Out of the World, like all of the artists along with Steve, of course. So these are kind of neat because you get the whole comic that way. With the Steve Ditko archives, you're getting selected stories from them. So let's have a look there. These I'll just show you the covers because I only have so much time. But I do love them. Oh, Mysterious Traveler. This is another comic that he's done. These are actually great little, for you Ditko fans, these are all worth picking up. This, once again, this has the strange, the tension. There's that Ditko tension happening for you there, folks. Whew. Okay, another one was, of course, he worked on Wit's End with the immortal Wally Wood. Now, of course, let's get some comics, some of the typical Ditko work from the big two. Quite delicious. Of course, one of his most famous creations, Spider-Man. To be quite honest, out of all the Spider-Man artists, Ditko is still my favorite. His Spider-Man, I liked the way his Spider-Man was just sort of like a lanky kid, just barely out of high school, and there's just something to the emotion, the constant, once again, the constant Ditko tension in the background. I mean, because if it wasn't, his homework wasn't done, then it was his Aunt May was sick. There's always something on the go. But of course, with Ditko, of course, comes those cool costumes. I actually liked his costume design. From the Green Goblin, Kraven the Hunter, some of the really Scorpion, some of the coolest supervillains. Oh, there we go. Whew, man, it is getting hot here. So yeah, the Spider-Man, probably some of my favorite of his Marvel work. Next to my favorite, actually, Marvel work of his, Doctor Strange. This is absolutely fabulous, people. I mean, I was a huge Doctor Strange fan anyway, and this one I especially liked. Not only do I like the very first one, because the very first one has sort of a neat edge to it. A couple issues in, they did an origins of the origin of Doctor Strange, which was really super cool then. That was back when he had that blue cape of his. Still one of my favorites. Okay, now let's slip on over into his DC work. Of course, right here we have the Steve Ditko Omnibus, Volumes 1 and 2. Volume 1 stars Shade, the Changing Man. He was one of, I think, one of his last great inventions. I loved Shade, the Changing Man. It's about the guy who was in a separate dimension, and he had this vest that could project this field and all that, and it was pretty cool. Very wildly imaginative, as usual. Now this one is great because it also has other stuff that he'd done over the years in the background that you couldn't find anywhere else, including Stalker, which was another one of my favorites of his from the 70s, and on to some mystery and horror stuff. So that's a very good one too myself, that I love myself. Oh man, I am just sweating to death here, people. Next comes the Steve Ditko Omnibus Volume 2, starring the Hawk and the Dove. Once again, the Hawk and the Dove was another one of my personal favorites of Ditko. I just loved it because his hawk was really hawkish and his dove was really dovish. I don't think anyone ever did the character as good as he did. The two characters as good as he did after that. I'd seen some stuff, but yeah. This also has some Legion work of his, and I think and some Starman and some Demon that he did. So it's these are a nice mixture of his latter DC work, and possibly, whew, gotta have a sip of liquid here so I don't dehydrate. Quite possibly my favorite DC character of Ditko's is the Creeper. I can remember as a kid actually buying the first appearance of the Creeper and reading it and think, wow, this is a really super cool hero, and this Ditko guy, this is even better than that Spider-Man comic he draws for that Marvel company. And I thought, oh my god, I bet you Creeper will be much more famous than that Spider-Man guy, which of course never came true. But there's something about the Creeper. It's such a cool, sort of a cool, macabre figure. I mean, his costume alone, the yellow skin, that fur, the floor mat or whatever it is, the fur coat that's wrapped around him, and it's a classic Ditko character. Love you, the Creeper. Whew. And let's see what else. Okay, he also did a few Thunder Agents. I do believe he did the Menthor story. Let's zip through here quickly. I don't want to keep you people waiting. Oh, there. No Man, I mean. And once again, like I say, you can tell a Ditko story a mile away just from the artwork, right? Now let's see. I think that was the. No, it could be that was the only one he did. That was the only one I could find anyway. Okay, now, last but definitely not least is the Action Heroes. These are, of course, the DC Archive editions. These are some of my favorites too, once again. This one contains all the early adventures of Captain Atom, and it takes us from when he had that costume there to, I think, let's see, oh no, he kept that costume for most of this one anyway. So that was one of his earlier on ones. It was once again classic Ditko. As soon as you see this, it's like super Ditko. The one thing that I thought was kind of cool was the sparkly trail that he used to leave behind him. I think the boys, Marvel and the boys, ripped that off and used that for Captain Marvel in later years, but hey, it was still pretty cool. There we go. I mean, there's some serious Ditko for you people. So if you can pick up this one, you got to pick up that one. And here we go at my favorite of the two, because this one's, number one, it's a lot thicker, and this one has not only the sort of new updated Captain Atom, but it also has the Blue Beetle and the Question. Now this Blue Beetle to me has always been my favorite Blue Beetle. When they changed the costumes there a few years ago, when DC did for them, and they had that sort of weird modern costume, I just thought it sucked. To me, I love the Blue Beetle costume itself. It's a classic. It's like Spider-Man, right? And I loved his space, his Beetle aircraft, the whole thing. And of course, the Question. Who can love the Question with all that mystery that he had going around him? Now, hang on a sec. This one I will get up close with you. Take off the dust jacket, and here we go. So this one, of course, you got some cool Captain Atom action. Then it goes into the Blue Beetle. Nightshade is around there too. But I love these stories because, I mean, look at how much story he packs into it. There we go. I've never liked it when other people have inked Ditko. I have to pardon that. That's the street outside, and it's raining out. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but absolutely love Blue Beetle. There's some, including a Ditko Question, which is really cool, from the Curtain Bullseye. Whew. Man, oh God, what a night here tonight. So that more or less is my my Ditko collection. Now I do have, like I say, some of the PS art books over there. The Out of This World. This Magazine is Haunted. I guess it's still one of my favorite titles. But I think for the most part, I think this is every Ditko collection that I have. As a matter of fact, I'm just scanning, looking through, trying to think if there is anything else Ditko-esque here, and I don't think so. So anyway, that's that once again, folks, is my Steve Ditko collection. Like I say, I can still remember the shock I felt when I seen someone post to the to Facebook that Steve Ditko is dead and all that, and it hit me. Like I say, it was remind me of when I found out that Kirby was dead, which was back in the 90s, and of course that time we had to wait a lot longer because there was no internet around then, or at least no serious internet, and that was a sad day too, and it felt that way too when I'd heard about Mr. Ditko. Unfortunately, I never did get to meet him myself. I kept thinking when I was living in New York, oh, I should go up and meet him, because I knew where his thing was, but it's one of those things you just never get around to doing, and you know that in the end you'll regret it. But one thing I won't regret though has been the adventures and the fun and the hours of enjoyment that Mr. Steve Ditko has personally delivered to me, and I know to everyone else out there in comic book land. So Steve, we love you. Godspeed.